Welcome, Shasta College, Humanities and Film Studies. We're still studying film. Why not? Class isn't over yet. It will be over this week, though. Wednesday will be my last lecture for you guys. And I have another lecture on Thursday for somebody else. And then I'll spend 7 intense days grading everything like crazy. There will be no more assignments. It's over. Get everything in now. All the assignments are open. Get it in. If they're late after this week, they won't count. The holiday starts. Some holiday, right? During a pandemic, we can't go anywhere. We can't gather. We can't do much. But I think it's going to be over by at least next year. The lecture today is we've gone as far as we're going to go in the history of film until the right now. I'm going to do current history. I've covered everything I can as best we can on the internet. I hope it hasn't been too disappointing. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you enjoyed these movies, even the black and white ones. New York Times this week has the article. It's like their wrap up. They do this every year. The best plays, the best music, the best movies. And that's sometimes it's pretty predictable. The issue I like is it comes out next week and it's the worst. I like their worst list. That's more fun to me. What failed? What film failed badly? I was trying to watch one the other night. I couldn't get through it. It's brand new on Netflix called Prom, musical with Meryl Streep and other people. I just thought it was silly. And I thought, wow, they put a lot of effort into this thing. Did you like it? Maybe you saw it. Anyway, I don't think it's going to make anybody's top 10 list this year, but I think you might be surprised at what did. Let me test you. Have you seen any of this stuff? Now, this person here, she is a critic for the New York Times for many, many years. With all the Dargis, and her number one movie this year. Are you waiting? Martin Eden. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it? That's her number one pick. Yes, folks, it's a foreign film. And if you know anything about literature, I hope you do, it's based on a Jack London novel about a guy who is struggling to find his place in the world, and it's gotten incredible reviews. It hasn't come out yet. We can't stream it yet. He's on a world soul-searching trip to find out who he is, why he matters. I think we all should go on that trip sometime or another. That was her number one. Another number two, this is going to be surprising, City Hall. Have you ever heard of it? Probably not. It's a documentary about City Hall, Chicago City Hall, made by the great Frederick Weissman. Remember when we covered documentaries? I mentioned Weissman. I said if you want to, he usually films these movies. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He doesn't try to make the story. He just shoots film for 6 or 7 weeks. Then he takes a year to put it together and edit it and get some sort of coherence to it. And he's done this for the last 60 years. He's getting pretty elderly now, but he's still in the game. I think I asked you to go, you could go see the previews to one of his films when I did documentaries a couple years ago. It was called Crazy Horse. I thought because there's a bunch of naked women in it, that it might appeal to some of you. Did you watch it? There's only previews, but you got a gist of it. You get, watch the whole thing. I've watched it. It's really fascinating. Aside from naked women running around, it's how they put the show together in Paris, and how all the work and all the money and the auditions and everything that goes into it. Anyway, so this is his newest film, and she made it number 2 on her list. Number 3, they call it uplifting. I don't trust those movies that are uplifting. Funny, weird, and bloody, deeply political. I have no idea what it is. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Bacurau. Bacurau, maybe. I'm not sure what it is. A lot of these films haven't really been released yet. Then she's another one I do know, this movie called First Cow. Don't you just want to rush out to the theater to see a movie called The First Cow? It's set in the olden West, but it's not a Western like you think, with guys with cool guns and hats and having a bunch of cool shootouts. No, this is by Kelly Reinhardt, who has really accomplished quite a feat of filmmaking in her life. Started with River of Grass, which I think is brilliant. And last 10 movies she's filmed up north of here in Oregon. And maybe you saw Wendy and Lucy with Michelle Williams, homeless girl and her dog. She's Wendy, the dog's Lucy. Heartbreaking story. They're very, very modest movies, very low budget. And this one is all about somebody trying to start a cattle herd. And it's a frontier story. And they're always very slow movies. She films movies in the time frames that they occurred. You know how we're all speeded up now, folks? And we are, with texting and instant this, instant that, instant hookups, instant movies, instant pleasure. We don't wait for anything. But in the 150 years ago, they waited. You know how long it takes to walk a cow a mile? A long time, folks, if you're not rushing it. And so this movie is all about this cow and other things, of course. And that made her 6 best movies. How about that? Here's another one I've never heard of. Never, rarely, sometimes, always. Oh, yes, I know this one. I do believe I've read about it. It's one of these. They're calling it a terrific film that really hasn't come out yet. There's another one called The Collective, a documentary. Wow. Now I have seen this one. Number 9, the 40-year-old version, not virgin, and not 40-year-old virgin. Remember the funny movie with Steve Carell, right? Is the guy who's the virgin at 40. No, this is a clever play on those words. It's a woman, an African-American woman, who wrote her own script, stars in it, directed it. It's from her one-woman show, I should say, a theatrical piece that they made into a movie, and it's playing right now. It's on. It's a very New York film, very rich and deep and satisfying and very real. Filmed on the Lo-Fi in New York City. And yeah, check it out. It's streaming. I don't know where it's streaming. I saw it on Amazon or something. So it's out there. Here's another one. Number 10, Beanpole. I have no idea. It's a Soviet film by a director who I cannot pronounce his name. See, these films are in the last 5 years, the global village, Hollywood, and mainstream cinema has embraced cinema from outside of Hollywood. Last year, the best picture for best movie at the Academy Awards was from South Korea, Parasite, which is a wonderful movie. Of course, our beloved president said it was un-American to have a non-American film in there. Yeah, so there's her 10. Have you seen any of them? Does any of them interest you at all? Okay, A.R. Scott, he's one of the main critics for the New York Times, and I'm not saying I love his taste. He's okay. I read him every day. His number one movie of the year was Borat, the new one. The subsequent movie film it's called, and that is streaming. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix. It's on one of those. Could be on Amazon. Borat made his first film 10 years ago or so, and his big hit. This is a sequel to it, and it's pretty cringe-worthy. If you know anything what he does, he dresses up like this kind of buffoonish foreigner, and he comes to America and he kind of wreaks havoc on our institutions. This time he has his supposedly his daughter with him, and she's just as kind of wild and crazy as he is. There's some rough moments in it if you want to watch it. Meaning rough when I say it's. I'll just explain one scene. They go to a debutante ball. You know what that is? Where rich kids, their parents throw them this big ball, and they're all in their nice clothes. They're dancing, and Borat is there with his daughter. Well, because they're supposedly coming from this kind of primitive, sort of old world village. They're not up to date with all the hip stuff. And I guess, believe it or not, I guess having a sanitary napkin isn't hip or something, or they don't know about it, or they just handle it differently than we do in the Western civilization. And it shows she goes on the dance floor and she's dancing up a storm, and she's bleeding up a storm, folks. And, they film these things with hidden cameras. The audience, the people that they film in front of, don't know that it's going to be this movie. They think it's real. So the actress, she's getting really quite acclaimed now, who plays his daughter. It's not his real daughter, because she's very, very bold to do these things without anybody knowing there's a camera on them. It's all hidden camera stuff, and it will make you feel uncomfortable, but there's a message to it. There is. Maybe you've seen this excerpts with her. She goes to, she's as a fake reporter, she goes to interview. This is real, folks. It was on YouTube. It's it's on everywhere. Made all the national news. She interviews Rudy Giuliani, and he makes a pass at her. Maybe you've seen it. He pats her on her butt, and then he asks for, this old bastard asks for her phone number and her email, and she's only supposedly 16, folks. And then maybe seeing him, he's laying down on the bed. He puts his hands down the front of his pants. What's he doing down there? She leaves the room, and he defended it by saying he was tucking in his shirt. Yeah, that's what most people do when you lay down on a bed with your hands down the front of your pants, is you're tucking in your shirt. Sure. So they actually, I guess you would say they put these fake scenarios up, and they get a lot of real people to step into their traps, and it's pretty brutal when they do. And so that was his number one movie of the year, and it's only streamed. The opening article, I didn't read it to you. It says movies are now our television, because the pandemic has closed most cinemas down, or they have very limited releases. And so 90% of the films we're seeing now that we would call movies, the stuff I've been teaching in this class for 5 years, is all on TV. So TV is definitely the new cinema frontier. Is there any difference how you watch it? Not anymore. There used to be. TV was more safe. It was more for general consumption, and movies were more daring. You saw better special effects. You saw more sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the whole bit. But look at some of these TV movies. They're amazing. They're not holding back at all. Queen's Gambit, which I just loved. Suicide, drunkenness, drug addiction, all of it. All the good stuff. Whereas they just relegate that to movies. Like TV audiences were it was too tough for them to see, families. That's when there's only 3 channels, NBC, CBS, and NBC. Now with all the streaming, but is it really, yeah, we're watching it on what they would call a TV, but really, is it TV? There's no ads, there's no advertising. And they could say the F-bomb now. They could show nudity. They could show people getting their heads cut off. So, and you pay for it. You pay HBO, whatever, Hulu. So next year when I teach this class, we're going off the grid, folks. We're going right to TV. The other one, A.R. Scott's second movie was City Hall. That's how good this documentary is by Frederick Weissman. The documentary on the Chicago City Hall and how it works and functions. I know you might probably think, oh my God, that sounds so boring, but it won't be, because this guy knows how to put the camera and he knows how to tell a story. And you'll learn more about our way of life and how, who here has been to a City Hall meeting? I have, and they're really terribly boring. How do you make an exciting movie out of it? Well, he does. I'm looking forward to seeing it. His third movie was called First Cow. It's the Kelly Reinhardt movie, again, about the transportation of this cow. I bet you guys can't wait to go see that one. You're just like, wow. A movie set 150 years ago about somebody transporting a cow. That's high on my list. His number 4 was the Martin Eden, the film based on the Jack London autobiographical novel, which my younger brother, who is a Jack London fan, gave me a couple years ago, and I read. And it's different than anything he ever wrote. Jack London's known for writing Call the Wild, White Fang. He's considered kind of a nature writer, but this is about his story, about wanting to be a writer. And in those days when he was doing this, in early part of the 20th century, writers thought they had to travel the world to understand the world better. And so that was very popular. Jack London did that. He was on whaling ships. He was in Alaska. He worked on many ships, and that's what this story is about. Because he wanted to collect stories and human interest and try to understand humanity through traveling the world. Now, think about that right now. Think about that. We can't travel right now. Every country is shut down right now. We're not allowed to travel without a lot of hassle. Yes, you could go to certain countries as long as you have 2 weeks of isolation and proof that your last COVID test was negative. And you have to, a friend of mine just went to Maine. This is the United States, folks. And she had to have a COVID test before she got there. And she had to take one when she left to come back to California, because Californians go, no, you might have picked up COVID back there. So it's a tough time to travel. Jack London's time was really tough to travel. There was no cars. There was trains, but there's mostly ships. That's how you travel the ocean. No airplanes, folks. No jet airliners with cocktail hour. And so I'm looking forward to this movie. I want to go look at the book again so I know what I'm in for. And the movie is made in, I think it might be Italian. The Marcello is the directors. That's Italian. So here we have 4 of the top movies of the year. And you probably know Tom Cruise is in any of these. Liam Neeson's not in any of them. Quentin Tarantino didn't direct any of them. So actually, these are like what I would call almost art films. So maybe we are turning a corner. No superhero movies on these, I'm sorry to say, folks. Last year, we at least had Black Panther, Wonder Woman. Not this year. Not yet. Number 5, the 40-year-old version. Again, the single black middle-aged woman wrote it, directed, starred in it. Think about that, folks. She's not a movie star. Nobody knows who she is. Doesn't have some big name. But we want to watch the movie because she's made an engaging, thought-provoking, funny human story. And what's better than that? I don't need to have a movie star telling me about that. Just give me something real. So I'm enjoying this list, folks. I'm not saying, as a film historian and scholar, I'm enjoying this list. These are good, complicated films about the human condition. His number 6 is Palm Springs, which is a movie that hasn't come out yet, onto streaming. Well, I might be streaming on HBO, which I don't get. Maybe I should get it. But I'm paying for 5 streaming services already. I don't know if I want another one. But and it's maybe you've seen it. If you've seen Palm Springs, it's a comedy about a couple who aren't getting along very well, and they're vacationing in Palm Springs. The kid from Adam Sandberg, from Saturday Night Live, and his other TV show, which I don't get. He plays the cop. It gets really good reviews. He plays the kid in it. I do not know this girl. I'm looking forward to it. It's a love story full of cynicism and hope. Wow. Cynicism and hope. That's how I operate, folks. People always consider me cynical. I am. I don't like to see cynicism. I like to see realistic better. But there's always a glimmer of hope at the end of the day for me. And what I do. Why do you think I'm here? But I write movies. I write screenplays. I make plays. I write novels. And they're always got a glimmer of hope in them. Not la hope. Hopefully it's a grain of realism thrown in there, because hope is not easy to come by, folks. And then number 8, is David Burns. You know who that is? He's the lead man from the rock group Talking Heads. He made a performance that played on Broadway this year. Then it got cut short because of the pandemic. It's called Utopia. I saw it on, they played it on, I think, on Netflix. It's essentially 10 or 12 people on stage the whole time, and they're playing his songs, and they do a great job. They're all playing the instruments right there, and they do dances, and they do, he does verbal monologues about the state of our being right now. And his whole thing was hope also. Interesting. One when I was a little cynical when I started watching it, because I go, oh, if he's just going to be like everything's so bummer and he's going to be happy face on everything, throw a happy face on it and it makes it good. But he's smarter than that. And it's made a lot of people's, and so they filmed it. Believe it or not, Spike Lee directed it. And he filmed the stage show. He didn't film it as a movie. It was, but now it's gone out into movie theaters. Since the pandemic, they can't have the play anymore. You can't go see it. And so people are seeing it through Spike Lee's film. He had something like 10 cameras film the performance over a 2-day period, something like that. And then they edit it, put it together. Hey, that's cinema now, man. You put a camera on it, it's cinema. I was in Telluride 20 years ago. We were trying to get my film in there. And I went to the seminar with Louis Malle, French director who had just directed a movie called Vanya and 42nd Street. And he was up there giving a lecture, and he was debating a film critic, John Simon, who's really a dick. He just died this year, actually. Simon, Louis Malle died many years ago. But and the subject was, when is a film a film? As opposed to filming a play or a performance, when is a film a film? And John Simon had very rigid rules. It has to be this way, it has to be that way. It can't look theatrical. He had all sorts of rules and regulations about lighting. And they want to, it's a great movie, by the way. I suggest you go watch it. Vanya and 42nd Street. Julianne Moore's in it, looking lovely as usual. It was probably filmed in 1993, thereabouts. So it's before most of you were born. But it's in color, folks. Filmed in New York City. Yeah, so when they came to, and they asked Louis Malle, they said, well, what makes a film a film? And he said, well, if I turn a camera on, it's a movie. And and the crowd was happy he said that. They all applauded, and John Simon was that's not a movie. That's just turning a camera on. Well, they turned 10 cameras on David Byrne's show. If you watch it, you tell me if it's a movie or not. Does it qualify? What else? This thing called Dick Johnson is Dead is a documentary. It's been playing. I haven't watched it yet. It's really gotten good reviews about the mystery of death, and life. It says the result is funny, shocking, ghoulish, and surpassingly human. And at the end of the day, I think that's what really makes an important cinema statement. If you're just going to be ghoulish for no reason, then you got those movies as what they call torture porn movies, the Saw movies, and you've seen a couple. There's no hope at the end of the day, and there's no humanness in it. It's just glorified violence or sex or whatever. And so a movie that ends very human, even though they take you through some hell to get there, is important. Ingmar Bergman did it for his entire career. And then that ends with a movie I haven't heard of. Number 10. Maybe you've heard of it. Soul. It's a Pixar movie. New Pixar's coming out. It was slated for release last spring, but then pandemic shut everything down, and they had to put everything on hold. Oh, yeah. And then they go into television. Maybe you've seen some of this too. I've seen a lot of it. Better Call Saul, which is brilliant. Yeah. The Good Lord Bird has got great reviews. Anyway, television is now our new is now our new cinema. I'm not going to talk anymore. Get your assignments in. Everything's due now. If it comes in by past Friday, I won't accept it. This class is over. Get it done. That means your journal. If there's another essay, I don't think there is, and your final paper. Looking forward to reading it. Looking forward to your journals to see if you watch any of these lectures and stayed awake. And on that note, remember, folks, least you forget, everything is cinema. And I'll see you.